Welcome, linguistic adventurers, to one of history's most persistent and tantalizing puzzles, the enigmatic script of the Indus Valley Civilization. For nearly a century, thousands of inscribed artifacts have emerged from the ruins of ancient cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, bearing cryptic symbols that have defied all attempts at decipherment. These aren't just squiggles. They are the silent voices of a sophisticated Bronze Age society, a lost language that holds the keys to understanding their daily lives, their beliefs, and their profound place in the human story. This series, The Indus Valley's Lost Script Explained, will embark on a unique journey. We'll explore the symbols themselves, the ongoing attempts at decipherment, and the profound implications locked within these ancient writings. Join us as we strive to grasp the untold stories of a civilization waiting to speak. Don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss an episode. Have you ever heard a secret whispered across 4,000 years? A story buried so deep that for millennia, nobody even knew it existed? Today, we're journeying back in time, not just centuries, but thousands of years, to uncover one of history's most astounding mysteries, the great Indus Valley Civilization. For most of recorded history, this incredible society was completely lost, a ghost sleeping beneath the sun-baked earth of modern-day Pakistan and India. It was a civilization that rivaled ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia in its grandeur and scale, yet it vanished without a trace, leaving behind silent, sand-covered mounds. Our story of rediscovery begins in the 1920s. Picture it. Teams of archaeologists, working under the blazing sun, their tools scraping away layers of dust and time. They weren't just digging for artifacts. They were searching for a forgotten world. And then, something incredible happened. First at Harappa, and then more spectacularly at a site called Mohenjo-Daro, meaning the Mound of the Dead, the earth began to give up its secrets. What they found was staggering. This wasn't a primitive settlement. This was a metropolis. Imagine the sheer awe as the first explorers walked through these ancient streets. They discovered a city laid out on a meticulous grid plan with broad main avenues and smaller residential lanes. It was urban planning on a scale that would not be seen again in the region for over 1,000 years. This was a society that valued order, structure, and community. As they dug deeper, the true genius of the Indus people became even more apparent. They unearthed multi-story houses, built from uniform, kill-fired bricks, a testament to mass production and standardized construction. Many of these homes had private wells, and most astonishingly, their own bathrooms. This leads us to one of the most remarkable features of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, their sanitation systems. Intricate networks of covered drains ran throughout the cities, carrying wastewater away from homes into larger sewers. This level of public hygiene was unheard of in the ancient world. The Romans were famous for their aqueducts and sewers, but the people of the Indus Valley were doing it 2,000 years before them. At the heart of Mohenjo-Daro, archaeologists uncovered the Great Bath. This massive, watertight structure, built with incredible precision, was likely a center for public or ritual bathing. Standing at its edge, you could almost feel the echoes of a vibrant community life, a society that gathered, celebrated, and shared in this communal space. But it wasn't just the buildings that told the story. The ground was littered with thousands of artifacts, beautiful pottery painted with intricate designs, terracotta figurines of people and animals, giving us a glimpse into their daily life and perhaps their beliefs, and jewelry crafted from carnelian beads, gold, and other precious materials, hinting at a prosperous society with extensive trade networks. Among these treasures, the most enigmatic of all were the seals. Thousands of small, square seals carved from soapstone were discovered. Each one was a miniature masterpiece, bearing a detailed carving of an animal, like a bull, a rhinoceros, or a creature that looks like a unicorn. And, most importantly, a line of strange, undeciphered script. These symbols are the silent voice of the Indus Valley people, Each seal is a locked message, a clue to their language, their government, their religion, their very identity. What did these symbols mean? Were they names? Titles? Religious incantations? We still don't know. The rediscovery of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro completely rewrote the history of South Asia. It pushed the timeline of civilization on the subcontinent back by millennia and revealed a society of incredible sophistication, peace, and order. Unlike many other ancient civilizations, archaeologists have found very little evidence of warfare, no massive fortifications, few weapons. It seems to have been a largely peaceful and prosperous society. So, as we stand at the threshold of this lost world, we're left with more questions than answers. Who are these people? How did they build such magnificent cities? What did they believe? And most pressingly, what happened to them? Why did this vast, organized, and advanced civilization simply fade away? The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro are the opening chapter of this incredible historical detective story. They set the stage, showing us the sheer scale and brilliance of the civilization that created the mystery we are about to explore, their silent, beautiful, and utterly indecipherable script. Imagine this. Amidst the dust and ruins of ancient cities, archaeologists unearth something small, yet monumental. Not gold, not grand statues, but tiny, exquisite stone seals. These weren't just decorative trinkets. They were the first whispers from a civilization lost to time. These seals, carved from soft steatite, were miniature masterpieces. Picture holding one in your hand, feeling the weight of 4,000 years. They were typically square, fitting neatly in your palm, and each one told a story, or at least, we think they did. The artistry was stunning. On their surface, you'd find incredible depictions of animals, some real, some mythical. There were powerful bulls, majestic elephants, and rhinos, all carved with breathtaking realism. But the most iconic and enigmatic of all was the so-called unicorn bull. It wasn't a mythical creature in the way we think of unicorns today, but a powerful bull shown in profile, with its two horns overlapping to look like one. This powerful image appears again and again, a clear symbol of importance. What did it represent? A clan? A deity? A high-ranking official? The questions began to pile up. And then there was the famous Pashupati seal, a name given to it by early excavators. It shows a seated figure, possibly with 3 faces, wearing a horned headdress and surrounded by animals. Some scholars saw it as a prototype of the Hindu god Shiva, the lord of animals. Others disagree, suggesting it could be a shaman, a fertility god, or something else entirely. This single seal opened up a universe of debate about the beliefs and religion of these ancient people. Was this a god, or a human in divine costume? Each theory painted a different picture of their spiritual world. But the animals and figures, as fascinating as they are, were only half the story. Above these images, on almost every single seal, was a line of mysterious symbols. A fish-like character, a grid, a person carrying a yoke. They were arranged in neat rows, clearly deliberate. This was it. This was the moment that turned a routine archaeological dig into a linguistic treasure hunt. The initial reaction among archaeologists was a mix of sheer awe and utter confusion. It looked like writing. It had the structure, the repetition, the complexity of a script. But what did it say? Was it a true language, capable of expressing complex ideas, or just a system of symbols, like a coat of arms or a maker's mark? No one knew. There was no Rosetta Stone, no bilingual text to crack the code. The script was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It wasn't related to Mesopotamian cuneiform or Egyptian hieroglyphs. It was utterly unique. This was the moment the linguistic puzzle of the Indus Valley was born. The discovery of these seals didn't provide answers. Instead, it posed one of the greatest riddles in history. Think about the excitement of those early researchers. They held the key, a direct message from the past, but they couldn't read the inscription. It was like finding a locked diary from a lost world. The quest to decipher these symbols began then and there, a challenge that has captivated linguists, archaeologists, and amateur codebreakers for nearly a century. Every new seal discovered adds another piece to the puzzle, another line of text to scrutinize. The seals themselves give us clues about their function. Most have a perforated boss on the back, a small lump with a hole through it, suggesting they were worn on a string, perhaps as an amulet or an ID badge. But more importantly, archaeologists have found impressions of these seals on clay tags. Imagine a merchant sending a bundle of goods, a sack of grain, or a bale of cotton. He would tie it up and then press a lump of wet clay over the knot. Before the clay dried, he would press his personal seal into it. When the goods arrived at their destination, the recipient could see if the seal was unbroken. If it was, they knew the package hadn't been tampered with. This tells us the Indus Valley had a sophisticated system of trade and administration. These seals were tools of commerce, acting as signatures, guarantees of quality, and markers of ownership. So, the script likely contains names, titles, origins, or perhaps the contents of the package. It was practical. It was functional. But even knowing their function doesn't help us read the script itself. We have about 4,000 examples of these inscriptions, but they are frustratingly short. The average text is only about 5 symbols long. The longest is a mere 17. There are no long letters, no historical records, no religious texts at least, none that have survived. It's like trying to learn English by only reading Twitter hashtags. You get a sense of the topics, but you miss all the grammar and nuance. This is why, to this day, the Indus script remains undeciphered. It's a silent language. These beautifully carved seals speak volumes about the art, trade, and beliefs of the Indus people, but the words themselves remain locked away. They are a tantalizing glimpse into a literate world whose literature is lost to us. The quest ignited by that first discovery continues, a testament to our enduring desire to hear the stories of the past, even when they only whisper. When we think of the Indus script, those iconic square seals are probably the first thing that comes to mind, right? They're the poster child for this ancient mystery. But what if I told you that's just the tip of the iceberg? To truly understand the scope of this writing system, we need to look beyond the seals and explore the full collection, what archaeologists call the corpus of inscriptions. It has a treasure trove of artifacts that shows just how deeply this script was woven into the fabric of everyday life in the Indus Valley. Imagine walking through the bustling streets of Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa. You wouldn't just see the script on official seals used for trade. You'd find it everywhere. We're talking about small, thin copper tablets, almost like ancient business cards or tokens. We found countless pottery shards, pieces of broken pots and jars, with characters scratched or stamped onto them. Were these labels for what was inside? Or maybe the owner's mark? The script also appears on tools, perhaps indicating ownership or the name of the workshop that made them. But it gets even more personal and fascinating. Archaeologists have unearthed beautiful bangles, made from terracotta or shell, inscribed with these same enigmatic signs. Imagine wearing a piece of jewelry that carried a message, a name, or perhaps a protective charm. We've even found it on slender ivory and bone rods, which might have been used for applying makeup, as gaining pieces, or for some form of divination. Each of these objects tells a story, showing us that writing wasn't some elite activity confined to scribes in a temple. It was out in the world, on the tools people used, the pots they cooked with, and the jewelry they wore. It was a part of their daily existence. Now let's talk numbers, because the scale of this is truly staggering. To date, we have discovered over 4,000 unique inscribed objects. 4,000. That's a massive amount of data. This isn't just a handful of cryptic carvings. It's a widespread and established system of communication. From the northernmost settlements in the foothills of the Himalayas to the coastal towns in the south, these inscriptions pop up, showing a remarkable consistency across a vast civilization. This uniformity tells us they shared a common administrative and cultural system, with this script at its core. However, here's where the plot thickens, and the real challenge for decipherment comes in. While we have thousands of texts, the vast majority of them are incredibly short. The average inscription length is only about 5 or 6 signs. Think about that. It's like trying to understand a whole language by only reading a collection of Twitter posts from 10 years ago, but with even fewer characters. Most of these inscriptions are just a handful of symbols, a tiny snippet of information. The longest continuous text we've ever found is a mere 26 signs long. 26. That's less than the number of letters in the English alphabet. This brevity is the single biggest hurdle for anyone trying to crack the code. Why? Because language relies on context. When we learn a new language, we look for patterns, repetition, and the way words connect to form sentences and express complex ideas. With inscriptions this short, that context is almost entirely missing. We don't have long sentences, paragraphs, or narratives. We don't have the Indus Valley as version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, or a king's royal decree. What we have are fragments, labels, and names. It's like finding a library where all the books have been shredded, and all you have are a few words from each page. You can see the problem. Are these short strings of symbols names of people? Are they titles, like Chief Potter or Tax Collector? Are they names of clans, deities, or places? Or are they numerical accounts, recording quantities of goods? Each of these possibilities is plausible, but without longer texts to provide a framework, it's incredibly difficult to prove any single theory. It's a puzzle with thousands of pieces, but no picture on the box to guide us. This limited length has fueled endless debate among scholars. Some argue that because the texts are so short, the Indus script might not be a true writing system capable of representing spoken language at all. They propose it might be a simpler system of symbols, like heraldic crests or astronomical signs, conveying limited information without corresponding to a specific language. On the other hand, many researchers firmly believe it is a genuine script, a logosyllabic system like ancient Sumerian or Mayan, where signs can represent whole words or individual syllables. They argue that the shortness of the texts is simply due to the nature of the artifacts they read on seals, and labels aren't meant for writing novels. Think about the writing you encounter every day that isn't in a book. The label on your shirt just has the brand name. A coin just has United States of America and Liberty. A street sign just says stop. These are all short texts, but they are undeniably part of a full writing system. Proponents of the script as language theory suggest we're looking at the ancient equivalent of this. The Indus people likely wrote their longer texts, their literature, their histories, their letters on perishable materials like palm leaves, cloth, or wood. Over 4,000 years, in the climate of the Indian subcontinent, these materials would have simply rotted away, leaving us with only the inscriptions on durable materials like stone, ceramic, and metal. So, we're left with this paradox, a wealth of inscriptions that points to a literate, organized, and widespread culture, but a poverty of context that keeps their meaning locked away. The sheer number of artifacts proves the script was vital. Its presence on everything from official seals to personal bangles shows its integration into all levels of society. But its tantalizing brevity is what makes it one of the most frustrating and fascinating challenges in modern archaeology. Every new discovery of an inscribed object adds another piece to the puzzle, another clue that might one day help us hear the voices of this incredible civilization. It underscores just how much of their world was marked, labeled, and identified by these beautiful, mysterious signs. What do you think they were trying to say? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Imagine a territory larger than ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. That was the realm of the Indus Valley Civilization. And their script? It wasn't just a local fad in one or two big cities. It was everywhere. From the windswept highlands of Shortagai in modern-day Afghanistan, a trading outpost far to the north, all the way down to the coastal trading hub of Lawful in Gujarat, India, archaeologists have unearthed artifacts bearing these distinctive symbols. Let's put this on a map. Picture a vast area stretching over 1 million square kilometers. We see major urban centers like Harappa in the Punjab and Mohenjo-Daro in Sindh, both teeming with life and, of course, inscribed objects. But the script wasn't just for city slickers. It's been found in smaller towns, rural settlements, and even remote outposts along ancient trade routes. This tells us something crucial. The script was an integral part of life across this entire cultural zone. Now, let's talk about time. The golden age of the Indus script corresponds with the mature phase of the civilization, roughly from 2600 to 1900 BCE. For 700 years, this system was in active use. Think about that 7 centuries. That's a longer lifespan than many modern writing systems have had so far. This period of stability and widespread use suggests a highly organized and interconnected society. The script wasn't a fleeting experiment. It was a well-established institution. What does this widespread, standardized use actually mean? Well, for one, it points to a level of social and political integration that is simply astounding for the Bronze Age. Imagine a merchant in Lawful, on the coast of the Arabian Sea, using a seal to stamp a clay tag on a bale of goods. That same seal, with its unique script and animal motif, could be recognized and understood by an official or another merchant hundreds of kilometers away in Harappa. This implies a shared system of administration and economic control. This standardization is one of the most compelling pieces of evidence we have. The symbols, the way they were inscribed on seals, pottery, and tablets, are remarkably consistent across this vast region. A unicorn motif found in Mohenjo-Daro looks just like one found in a smaller village hundreds of miles away. The script itself doesn't have significant regional variations. This uniformity suggests a centralized system of education or training for scribes and artisans, and it facilitated seamless communication for trade, administration, and possibly religious rituals. It was the glue holding this sprawling civilization together. Think of it like a modern corporate logo or a national currency. Its value lies in the fact that everyone recognizes it and agrees on what it represents. The Indus script seems to have functioned in a similar way. It was a shared symbolic language that transcended local dialects, binding diverse communities into a single, cohesive cultural entity. The sheer scale of this system makes it unique among the world's earliest scripts. And this, my friends, is what makes the mystery even deeper and more frustrating for linguists and archaeologists. We have thousands of examples of a sophisticated, standardized script that was used for centuries across an empire-sized civilization. And we can't read a single word. It's like finding a massive library from a lost world. But all the books are locked. Every new seal or potsherd discovered in a new location adds another piece to the puzzle, but also deepens the enigma. Why did this system, so successful for so long, eventually disappear along with the civilization that created it? And what secrets of their administration, their economy, and their beliefs are locked away in these tiny, elegant symbols? The geographic spread and chronological depth of the Indus script are not just dry facts. They are the dimensions of one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles. We're going to look directly at the evidence. What do these ancient inscriptions actually show us? Forget about decipherment for a moment. Before we can even dream of reading these signs, we first have to do what any good detective would: organize the clues. This is all about classification, about creating an inventory of the puzzle pieces we have. So let's explore the Indus sign list. Imagine you've just unearthed thousands of tiny seals, pottery shards, and copper tablets. On them, You see an array of beautifully carved symbols. Your first task? To figure out how many different unique symbols there are. This is precisely the challenge that has faced archaeologists and linguists for nearly a century. What you'd quickly notice is a fascinating mix. Some signs are instantly recognizable. You'd see what looks very clearly like a fish, a person carrying something on their shoulders, a squat jar, or perhaps a bird. These are called pictographic signs because they look like pictures of real-world objects. It feels like a promising start, right? A fish sign might mean fish, simple. But hold on, because it's never that easy. Alongside these clear pictures, you'd find a whole host of other symbols that are much more abstract. Think geometric shapes, circles, squares, diamonds, and intricate cross-hatching. These don't immediately look like anything from the physical world. Are they concepts, numbers, or maybe sounds? Then, things get even more complicated. You'd start seeing signs that look like combinations of other signs. For example, you might see that familiar fish sign, but now it has a strange diacritical mark, like a little hat, drawn over it. Or you might see the fish sign combined with a series of vertical strokes next to it. These composite signs are called ligatures, where two or more basic signs are fused into one. Now, here's the big question. Is a fish with a hat on it a completely new symbol? Or is it just a variation of the fish symbol? If a man is holding a bow, is that a different sign from a man holding a jar? This is where the debates begin, and it's why creating a definitive sign list is so difficult. Different scholars have different opinions on what counts as a unique sign versus a simple modification. It's like trying to decide if the letter A with an accent mark, like way, should be considered a completely separate letter in the alphabet. Depending on how you count, the total number of unique Indus signs is estimated to be somewhere between 400 and 600. Think about that number for a second. 400 to 600 unique symbols. Let's put that into perspective. A modern alphabet, like the one I'm using to speak to you now, has around 26 letters. These systems are purely phonetic, with each letter representing a sound. On the other end of the spectrum, a fully logographic system, like Chinese, has tens of thousands of characters, where each character can represent an entire word or concept. So where does the Indus script, with its 400 to 600 signs, fit in? It's in a fascinating middle ground. It's too many signs to be a simple alphabet or a syllabary like Japanese hiragana, which has about 46 characters. But it's also probably too few signs to be a purely logographic system where every single word has its own unique picture. This number, this range of 400 to 600, is one of our most important clues. It strongly suggests that the Indus script is what we call a logosyllabic system. This is a mixed script. Think about ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. In that system, some signs represented whole words, like a picture of a sun meaning sun, while other signs represented sounds, like a picture of a mouth representing the sound R. It's highly probable the Indus script worked in a similar way, using a combination of logograms, word signs, and syllabic signs, sound signs. This would explain the intermediate number of symbols. Some signs were likely pictures representing a whole word, while others might have represented the syllables that make up words. Over the years, researchers have poured immense effort into creating comprehensive sign inventories. Pioneers like G.R. Hunter in the 1930s, and later, the Finnish scholar Asko Parpula and the Indian researcher Iravatham Mahadevan have produced monumental works. They meticulously documented every single sign from every available artifact. They created concordances, which are like giant dictionaries of signs, showing every instance a particular sign appears and what other signs it appears next to. These databases are absolutely crucial. They allow us to study patterns without even knowing what the signs mean. For example, using these lists, we can see which signs are the most common. The jar sign, for instance, is one of the most frequently occurring symbols. We can also see which signs tend to appear at the beginning of an inscription and which ones appear at the end. These positional statistics are a powerful tool. In English, we know Q is almost always followed by U. Finding similar fixed patterns in the Indus script helps us understand its internal grammar and structure, even if we can't read it. We can identify what look like prefixes or suffixes, giving us a glimpse into the mechanics of the language it recorded. Let's visualize what these scholars did. Imagine a massive spreadsheet. Every row is a different inscription, and every column is a position in that inscription. They would then fill in which of the 400+ signs appeared in each slot. By analyzing this massive dataset, they could see that certain signs just never appeared next to each other, while other pairs were extremely common. This is the painstaking, foundational work of cryptography and linguistics. It's not as glamorous as a eureka moment of decipherment, but it's the bedrock upon which any future breakthrough will be built. Without a standardized, agreed-upon sign list, every researcher would just be talking past each other. These sign lists also reveal something about the people who wrote them. The very choice of what to represent as a pictograph tells us what was important in their world. We see fish, which makes sense for a civilization built around a massive river system. We see agricultural symbols, what might be plants or plows. We see figures that might represent different professions or social roles. There are signs that look like buildings, tools, and animals native to the region. The sign list itself is a window into the Indus worldview. The symbols they chose to write with were the symbols they lived with. However, the abstract signs remained the most baffling. What could a simple diamond shape mean? Or a circle with 4 lines radiating from it? Some researchers suggest they might represent abstract concepts like deity or power, or perhaps they are purely phonetic signs representing syllables that were hard to draw as a picture. Another fascinating theory is that some of these geometric signs could be related to a numbering system or metrology, the science of measurement which would have been essential for a civilization known for its incredible urban planning and trade. So, as we stand back and look at this incredible collection of symbols, what have we learned? We've learned that the Indus script is a complex system, not a simple alphabet. Its inventory of 400 to 600 signs points towards a logosyllabic script, a sophisticated mix of word signs and sound signs. We've seen how decades of meticulous work have gone into just cataloging and classifying these signs, creating the essential tools for any attempt at decipherment. And we've now realized that the very appearance of the signs, the mix of the pictographic and the abstract, gives us clues about the structure of the script and the world of the people who used it. We haven't translated a single word yet, but we've made crucial progress. We've organized the chaos. We've defined the scope of the problem. We now know the size and shape of the puzzle pieces. This is the first, and perhaps most critical, step in solving any ancient mystery. We are no longer just staring at a jumble of meaningless scratches. We are looking at a structured system, full of patterns and possibilities. We're talking about a symbolic marriage between the written word and the animal kingdom, a relationship that might just be the key to unlocking this ancient code. Think about it. We see these magnificent, detailed animal carvings: bulls, elephants, rhinos, and of course, the enigmatic unicorn. Then, right above them, we have this script that has stumped experts for over a century. The traditional view separates them. The image is art, the script is language. But what if that separation is our modern bias? What if, for the people of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, they were 2 sides of the same coin? This section dives into that very idea, the profound symbolic intersection of animals and writing. We're going to explore how animal forms might literally be part of the script as characters, and what that could possibly mean. Let's look closer at the signs themselves. When you analyze the script, certain characters seem to echo shapes from the natural world. Could that fish-like sign really represent a fish? Or is it something more? Scholars have proposed several tantalizing theories. One idea is that these animal-based signs are logograms, where one sign represents a whole word. So a sign that looks like a bird might simply mean bird. This seems straightforward enough, but it gets more complex. For example, in many ancient languages, the word for fish and the word for star sounded very similar. Could the fish sign, therefore, be used as a rebus to write the word star, or perhaps refer to a deity associated with the heavens? This is where things get really interesting. Another popular theory is that these animal signs represent sounds, just like our alphabet. This is the phonetic approach. In this scenario, the sign wouldn't represent the animal itself, but a sound from the word for that animal. Imagine if the sign for bull was used to represent the B sound. If you could string enough of these together, you could spell out words phonetically. The challenge, of course, is that we don't know what language the Indus people spoke. So, we don't know the word for bull or fish, which makes matching signs to sounds an incredibly difficult-to-prove puzzle. It is like trying to solve a crossword where you do and know the language of the clues. Then there's the spiritual and social dimension. What if these animals weren't just pictures or sounds, but powerful symbols representing something much bigger? This brings us to the idea of deities or clan totems. In many cultures throughout history, animals are linked to gods and goddesses. A powerful bull might represent a storm god, or a graceful bird might symbolize a goddess of the sky. The recurring unicorn, often shown with a ceremonial object in front of it, strongly suggests a religious or ritualistic context. Could the script be naming the deity depicted below it? Or perhaps these animals were totems, representing different clans or families. A seal might then be a marker of identity, saying something like, "This belongs to the elephant clan," with the script providing the individual's name or title. This deep integration of animal and script is one of the most unique aspects of the Indus Valley Civilization. Unlike Egyptian hieroglyphs, where you can often distinguish between signs that are phonetic and signs that are determinatives clarifying meaning, the Indus script is a complete mystery. The animal is always there, always prominent. The script almost feels like it's commenting on the animal, or the animal is giving context to the script. They are in a constant, silent dialogue across 4,000 years. Is the animal the subject, and the script a descriptor? Or is the script the main message, and the animal a kind of official stamp of authority or belonging? Let's consider the layout. The script is almost always placed directly above the animal. This hierarchical placement suggests importance. It's not just a random jumble. This deliberate arrangement implies a standardized system of communication. The consistency across thousands of seals from hundreds of different sites is astounding. It tells us this wasn't just artistic expression. It was a widely understood convention. The person seeing a seal with a rhino and a specific set of signs would have understood the combined message, a message that is completely lost to us today. The relationship between the iconic animal imagery and the script itself is a crucial, yet unsolved, part of the puzzle. So, where does that leave us? We're faced with a system where writing and image are inseparable. The animals aren't just decoration. They are part of the message. Are they representing the actual creatures? Are they phonetic clues? Are they symbols for powerful gods or family lineages? The answer is likely a complex combination of all these things. This is what makes the Indus script so tantalizing. It's not just a code. It's a window into a worldview where humans, animals, and the divine were intricately connected. The artists and scribes of the Indus Valley weren't just labeling goods. They were expressing a complex social and spiritual reality. Every time we look at one of these seals, we are seeing a complete, multi-layered statement. The animal provides a visual anchor, a symbolic foundation, while the script above adds a layer of specific information. Cracking the script isn't just about deciphering abstract symbols. It's about understanding why the bull is with asterisk, these asterisk signs, and the unicorn is with those asterisk signs. The patterns are there, waiting to be understood. The link between the animal kingdom and the written word is perhaps the most significant clue we have. It's the Rosetta Stone we're still trying to find the key for. The animals aren't just next to the script. They are in a deep, meaningful conversation with it. And that's a glimpse into the beautiful complexity of the animal motifs within the Indus script. It's a puzzle wrapped in an enigma, illustrated with some of the most stunning animal art of the ancient world. What do you think? Are these signs pictures, sounds, or symbols of the gods? Let me know your theories down in the comments. Now, we're taking a giant leap forward by tackling a seemingly simple, yet absolutely crucial question. Which way did they write? Left to right, like English? Or right to left, like Arabic or Hebrew? The answer is a vital key to unlocking the entire puzzle. So, how do we figure this out without a single bilingual text, like a Rosetta Stone, to guide us? It's like being handed a locked diary without knowing if you should start reading from the front or the back. The answer lies in some clever detective work, focusing on the physical layout of the inscriptions themselves. Imagine you're writing a sentence on a small piece of paper. As you get closer to the edge, what happens? You might start squishing your letters together, or maybe even run out of space and have to write the last word down the side. This is exactly the kind of clue that archaeologists look for. Let's dive into the evidence. When we examine hundreds, even thousands, of Indus seals and pottery fragments, a distinct pattern emerges. On many inscriptions, the signs on the far left side appear cramped, as if the scribe was running out of real estate. The spacing is uneven, with the right side often having more generous gaps between symbols and the left side looking a bit squashed. This is a classic sign that the writing began on the right and ended on the left. The scribe started with plenty of room and then had to adjust as they approached the end of the line. Here, take a look at this famous seal. See how the signs on the right are neatly placed? Now, follow the line to the left. Notice how this last symbol here seems tucked in, almost squeezed into the remaining space? We see this pattern repeated over and over again across different sites and different types of artifacts. It's a subtle but powerful piece of forensic evidence. If the writing were left to right, we would expect to see the opposite, cramping on the right-hand side. But we don't. The overwhelming evidence points in one direction. Another fascinating clue comes from what we call overlapping signs. Sometimes, when inscribing on wet clay or a soft stone, the tool used to make one sign would slightly cut into the sign made just before it. Think of it like writing in wet sand. When we analyze these overlaps, we can determine the sequence in which the signs were made. Time and again, these microscopic overlaps show that the sign to the right was made asterisk before asterisk, the sign to its immediate left. The scribe carved the symbol, moved their hand to the left, and carved the next one, sometimes accidentally nicking the previous character. It's like a fossilized record of the scribe's hand movements, frozen in time for 4,000 years. We can also look at inscriptions on pottery. Imagine a potter inscribing a message around the shoulder of a pot. It's common for the start and end of the inscription to not line up perfectly. In the case of the Indus script, we often find a larger gap on the right side of the final symbol indicating this is where the scribe completed the circuit, finishing the message on the left of where they started. It's yet another piece that fits perfectly into the right-to-left puzzle. So the evidence is compelling. Cramped signs on the left, overlapping strokes showing a right-to-left sequence, and the placement of inscriptions on circular objects all point to a standard writing direction. While there might be rare exceptions, perhaps for a specific artistic reason, the default was clearly right to left. Now, you might be thinking, okay, great, they wrote from right to left. So what? That doesn't tell us what the fish symbol means. And you are absolutely right. Knowing the direction of writing doesn't decipher the script. But what it does is provide us with a fundamental rule of grammar, a structural framework. It tells us the correct order in which to read the signs. Any attempt to decipher the script that ignores this fundamental rule is doomed to fail from the very start. It is like trying to read an English sentence by starting with the last word and reading backwards. You might get a few words right, but you'll never understand the meaning of the sentence. By establishing this directional rule, we've laid a critical piece of the foundation. We now know how to arrange the signs into their intended sequences. This allows researchers to correctly identify recurring patterns, prefixes, and suffixes, the building blocks of language. For example, we can now confidently say that a specific group of signs at the end of many inscriptions is a terminal sequence, likely representing some kind of grammatical ending, a title, or a place name. Without knowing the direction, we wouldn't be able to distinguish beginnings from endings. This discovery, pieced together through meticulous observation by generations of archaeologists, was a monumental step forward. It transformed the jumbled collections of symbols into ordered strings of information. It gave us the correct syntax, even if we didn't yet know the semantics. It confirmed that we are dealing with a structured, systematic form of communication, not just a random collection of pretty pictures. So, while we still have a long way to go, we've now oriented our map correctly. We know which way to read the signs left behind by this incredible civilization. Now, we're shifting gears from individual signs to something even more tantalizing, recurring patterns. It's like finding a secret code within a code, and it might just be the key to unlocking this ancient language. So, what are these patterns? Imagine sifting through thousands of these short inscriptions, most just a handful of symbols long. At first, it might seem like random scribbles. But as scholars began to meticulously document and compare them, something amazing emerged. Certain signs just love to be at the beginning of a text, while others almost always appear at the end. It's like noticing that in English, many words end with ing or ed, or that sentences often start with the. These aren't random occurrences. They're clues to the underlying structure, the grammar of the language. This discovery was a game changer. It moved the study of the Indus script from simple symbol matching to a more sophisticated analysis of its internal logic. One of the pioneers in this field was the Finnish scholar Asko Parpala, who, along with his team, created a massive, comprehensive catalog of all known inscriptions. This allowed them, for the first time, to use computers to analyze the script on a grand scale. Instead of just looking at one seal at a time, they could ask the computer, "Show me every single inscription that starts with this fish-like symbol," or "How many times does this jar-like sign appear right before this diamond-shaped sign?" The results were stunning. They found statistically significant patterns that were too regular to be mere coincidence. For instance, a very common sign, often depicted as a person carrying a yoke or a pole, almost exclusively appears at the end of inscriptions. This has led many researchers to believe it might be a grammatical suffix, perhaps indicating case, like possession, of the ... double quotes. Or maybe it denotes a title or a profession. Think of it like adding son to a name to mean son of, or to a verb to describe a person who does that action, like a baker or a writer. This one symbol's consistent placement is a powerful piece of evidence. Then there are the sign clusters. Scholars noticed that certain groups of 2, 3, or even 4 signs frequently appear together in the same order. These are like ancient catchphrases or compound words. Let's take a hypothetical example. Imagine seeing the signs for sun and star together over and over again. This recurring pair could represent a single concept, like sky or heavens, or maybe it's a specific name, a title, or a religious formula. Identifying these fixed clusters is crucial because it tells us that the order of the signs matters. This is a hallmark of a true writing system, not just a collection of pretty pictures. Random symbols wouldn't have such a rigid order. One of the most debated and fascinating sequences involves the famous fish symbol. This sign appears in many variations and is one of the most common symbols in the entire script. What's intriguing is that it often appears in combination with other specific signs, forming recurring pairs. A particularly influential theory, again championed by Ascoparpala, connects this to the Dravidian language family, which is spoken today in southern India and parts of Pakistan. In Proto-Dravidian, the word for fish is min, but min also means star. This is what linguists call a rebus principle, where a picture of one thing is used to represent a word that sounds the same, but means something else. Think of drawing an I and a B to represent the phrase, I believe. Parpala suggests that the fish symbol might not represent an actual fish, but the sound min, and therefore could mean star or deity. So, a sequence of fish signs with different markings could represent different stars or constellations, perhaps linked to gods. This is a brilliant hypothesis, but it remains a theory because we have undefinitively proven that the Indus people spoke a Dravidian language. Statistical analysis doesn't stop at pairs. Researchers use sophisticated computational models to map the entire network of relationships between signs. They can calculate the probability of one sign following another. This creates a kind of grammatical map. It shows which signs are initiators, which are terminators, and which signs act as connectors in the middle of a text. This level of analysis has revealed that the Indus script has a clear directionality. Read from right to left. How do we know? In many cases where the text is a bit longer and has to wrap around to a second line, the second line starts on the left, under the end of the first line, showing the flow. Also, sometimes you see symbols getting squeezed at the left-hand end of a line, as if the carver was running out of space. This consistent directionality is another strong indicator of a structured written language. Let's dive deeper into what these patterns might represent. The signs that appear at the end of texts, the so-called terminators, could be suffixes. In linguistics, a suffix is a particle added to the end of a word to change its meaning. For example, in English, adding s makes something plural. So, these terminating Indus signs could be indicating plural forms, grammatical gender, or case endings that tell you the function of a word in a sentence, like whether it's a subject or an object. Identifying these would be a massive breakthrough, as it would give us our first glimpse into Indus grammar. Conversely, the signs that consistently appear at the beginning could be prefixes or determiners. A determiner is a word like a, an, or the. Maybe a specific sign at the start of an inscription means this is the property of ... or dedicated to ... This would make perfect sense for texts found on personal seals and votive offerings. These statistical regularities allow us to group signs into functional categories, even if we can't read them yet. We can start to say, this group of signs seems to function like suffixes, and this other group seems to be prefixes. We're essentially building a grammatical blueprint of the language without knowing the meaning of a single word. The repetition isn't just about position. It's also about frequency. Some signs are incredibly common, while others are extremely rare, appearing only once or twice in the entire corpus of thousands of inscriptions. This distribution is not random. It follows a pattern known as Zipf's law, which is a common feature of natural languages. In simple terms, Zipf's law states that in any language, a few words are used very frequently, while most words are used very rarely. For example, in English, the, be, and to are used all the time, whereas words like perspicacious are very rare. The fact that the Indus script S symbol frequencies align with Zipf's law is perhaps one of the most compelling pieces of internal evidence that we are dealing with a language-based writing system. It behaves like a language. So where does this leave us? While we haven't deciphered the script, The study of these recurring patterns and sequences has revolutionized our understanding. It has shown us that the Indus script is not a random collection of symbols. It has structure, it has rules, it has a preferred direction. As signs combine in predictable ways to form larger units, just like letters form words and words form sentences. These repeating structures are the ghost of a grammar, waiting to be brought back to life. They are the strongest argument against the theory that the script is just a system of religious or political symbols without any linguistic content. The work continues today with even more powerful computers and advanced algorithms. Researchers are using machine learning and artificial intelligence to analyze these patterns, hoping to find deeper structures that have so far eluded human eyes. Every new inscription that's unearthed, no matter how small, is added to the database and can potentially strengthen or challenge our current understanding of these patterns. It's a monumental, collaborative puzzle being solved piece by piece, generation by generation. The statistical regularities are our most reliable guide through the labyrinth of this lost script. They are the breadcrumbs left behind by the Indus scribes, leading us hopefully to the heart of their world. Ever heard of the Rosetta Stone? That incredible slab of rock that unlocked the secrets of Egyptian hieroglyphs? It was a game changer because it had the same text written in 3 scripts: hieroglyphs, Demotic, and Ancient Greek. Since scholars knew Greek, they could finally crack the code of the other 2. It was like having a dictionary for a lost language. Now, imagine you're a brilliant linguist staring at a collection of strange symbols from an ancient civilization. You have thousands of examples, beautiful seals and pottery shards covered in this elegant, mysterious script. You've dedicated your life to understanding what these people were trying to say. But there's one massive, frustrating problem. You don't have a Rosetta Stone. This is the exact situation with the Indus Valley Civilization. We call this the Rosetta Stone conundrum. It's the single biggest reason why, after a century of trying, the Indus script remains undeciphered. Without a bilingual text, an inscription that has the Indus script written alongside a language we do know. Like Mesopotamian cuneiform or ancient Elamite, we are essentially flying blind. Think about it. A bilingual text is the key. It provides a direct link, a cross-reference. If you saw a symbol for a fish in the Indus script next to the word for fish in Sumerian, you'd have your first solid clue. You could start building a vocabulary, identifying patterns, and testing hypotheses about grammar and sounds. It transforms guesswork into a scientific process of decoding. Without that key, everything is speculation. Every theory about what language the Indus people spoke, whether it was an early form of a Dravidian language from South India or something completely unique, is just that, a theory. Scholars can make educated guesses based on the structure of the script, the frequency of symbols, and the context of where they're found. They can analyze the short strings of symbols and try to figure out if they represent names, titles, or goods. But they can't prove it. It's like trying to solve a crossword puzzle where you don't know the language and you don't have any of the across or down clues. You can see the grid, you can see the letters, but you can't be sure what any of it means. This is the core of the challenge. Linguists have proposed dozens of decipherments over the years. Some are brilliant, some are bizarre, but none have gained widespread acceptance, precisely because they can't be independently verified. Any proposed meaning for a symbol can't be checked against a known translation. It's a chain of assumptions. If the first assumption is wrong, the entire decipherment falls apart like a house of cards. The frustration is immense. We have the tantalizing remains of a sophisticated urban civilization that built some of the world's first planned cities. They had trade, art, and likely rich culture. Their words are right in front of us, beautifully carved on thousands of artifacts, but they are silent. We are locked out of their world, unable to hear their stories, read their laws, or know their names. So where does that leave us? Are we just stuck forever? Not necessarily. The hunt for a bilingual text continues. Archaeologists are still digging, hoping to uncover that one artifact, perhaps traded to a neighboring civilization like Mesopotamia, that holds the key. Imagine the excitement, the global sensation, if a clay tablet was unearthed in Iraq with cuneiform on one side and the familiar, enigmatic Indus script on the other. It would be one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time. Until that day comes, researchers use other methods. They use computational analysis to find patterns in the script. They compare the symbols to later Indian scripts, and they study the archaeological context of the inscriptions. But all these efforts are workarounds, clever attempts to pick the lock without the key. The absence of a Rosetta Stone forces us to be more creative, but it also forces us to be humble. It's a powerful reminder that history is full of mysteries, and some secrets are kept for a very, very long time. The Indus script is a silent testament to a lost world, waiting for its moment to speak again. So the next time you see those elegant symbols on a museum display, remember the profound puzzle they represent. It's not just a script. It's a challenge, a mystery, and a tantalizing glimpse into a civilization we desperately want to understand better. Have you ever found yourself in a debate that feels like it's been going on forever? Maybe it's about a movie ending, or the best way to make coffee. Well, in the world of archaeology and linguistics, there's a debate that's been raging for nearly a century, and it's about the language of one of the world's most mysterious ancient civilizations, the Indus Valley. What language did they speak? What secrets are locked away in their beautiful, unreadable script? Now, we're diving deep into the heart of this linguistic battle, pitting the two main contenders against each other, the Dravidian hypothesis versus the Indo-Aryan hypothesis. Imagine a grand detective story, but the clues are scattered across 5,000 years. The central mystery is the Indus script. To crack it, we first need to figure out what language family it belongs to. It's like knowing a code is in Spanish before you even try to translate it. This is where our two main theories come into play. On one side, we have the Dravidian hypothesis, and on the other, the Indo-Aryan hypothesis. This isn't just an academic squabble. The answer could rewrite the very first chapters of South Asian history. So, grab your magnifying glass, because we're about to examine the evidence. Let's start with the frontrunner, the theory that has, for many decades, held the most weight, the Dravidian hypothesis. What does that mean? Well, Dravidian languages are a family of languages spoken today by over 250 million people, mostly in southern India and parts of Sri Lanka. Think Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam. The theory suggests that the language of the Indus Valley people was a form of Proto-Dravidian, the ancient ancestor of all these modern languages. So, what's the evidence? It's pretty compelling, and it's not just about words. First, let's look at geography and culture. We know that the Indus Valley Civilization declined around 1900 BCE. Interestingly, there's a pocket of a Dravidian language called Brahui that is still spoken today in Baluchistan, Pakistan, right on the western edge of the old Indus Empire. How did it get there, surrounded by Indo-Aryan languages? The most logical explanation for many scholars is that it's a linguistic survivor, a remnant of a time when Dravidian languages were spoken all across the region, including in the great cities of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. It's like finding a small, living dinosaur in a remote jungle. Then there's the cultural continuity. Many scholars see a direct line from Indus Valley religious practices to later Dravidian traditions. For example, some Indus seals depict a figure seated in a yoga-like pose, surrounded by animals. Many have identified this as a proto-Shiva, a precursor to a major deity in Hinduism, which has deep roots in Dravidian culture. The worship of mother goddesses, sacred trees, and certain animals seen in Indus artifacts also find strong echoes in later Dravidian folk religions. It's as if the cultural software of the Indus people was passed down and continued to run in Dravidian-speaking communities for millennia. The linguistic arguments get even more fascinating. Researchers like the renowned scholar Asko Parpola have spent their lives trying to decipher the script through a Dravidian lens. One of the most famous attempts involves the pictograms. For example, a common sign in the script looks like a fish. The Proto-Dravidian word for fish is min, but min also means star. Could the Harappans have been using a rebus principle? This is where a picture is used to represent a sound, not the object itself. Think of drawing an I and a B to mean I believe. So, could a picture of a fish actually represent a star or a deity associated with a star? This fish-star equation is one of the most tantalizing clues supporting the Dravidian hypothesis. It's clever, it's logical, and it fits what we know about how early writing systems often developed. Now, let's turn to the other side of the ring. Enter the Indo-Aryan hypothesis. This theory proposes that the language of the Indus Valley was an early form of Sanskrit, or a closely related language from the Indo-Aryan family. This is the family that includes Hindi, Bengali, Punjabi, and most other languages spoken across northern India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh today. This idea is particularly appealing to those who want to see a direct, unbroken lineage from the Indus civilization to the Vedic culture that followed. The proponents of this theory point to certain cultural elements they believe connect the two. For instance, the Rig Veda, the oldest text of the Indo-Aryans, describes forts and cities that some have tried to identify with Harappan sites. They also argue that symbols like the swastika, which appear on Indus seals, are important in Hinduism and Vedic traditions. The argument is essentially one of cultural inheritance. If the later dominant culture in the region was Indo-Aryan, isn't it logical to assume the great civilization that came before it was as well? However, the Indo-Aryan hypothesis faces some major hurdles, and they are significant. The biggest one is chronology. Most linguists and historians date the arrival of Indo-Aryan speakers into the Indian subcontinent to around 1500 BCE, after the Indus Valley Civilization had already collapsed. This creates a huge timing problem. If the Harappans were speaking an Indo-Aryan language, where did they go? And where did the Vedic people who came later come from? It suggests a major cultural break, not a continuity. Another significant issue is the horse. The horse was central to Vedic Indo-Aryan culture. It's mentioned hundreds of times in the Rig Veda. They had horse-drawn chariots and performed horse sacrifices. Yet, in the thousands of Indus seals and artifacts we've found, the horse is conspicuously absent. We see bulls, unicorns, elephants, tigers, but no clear, definitive representation of a horse. This lack of horse culture in the Indus Valley is a powerful argument against an Indo-Aryan identity. It is like trying to argue that ancient Romans didn't have roads. It just doesn't fit the cultural picture. Furthermore, attempts to read the script as Sanskrit have been far less successful and convincing than the Dravidian attempts. The linguistic structures don't seem to line up as neatly. While the debate is far from over, the chronological and archaeological evidence has led the majority of mainstream scholars to lean away from the Indo-Aryan theory for the language of the Harappans. So, where does this leave us? We have two competing linguistic family trees, each with passionate advocates. The Dravidian hypothesis seems to stand on firmer ground, supported by the survival of the Brahui language, strong cultural continuities, and plausible linguistic decryptions like the fish star example. The Indo-Aryan hypothesis, while culturally appealing to some, struggles with major chronological and archaeological inconsistencies, like the glaring absence of the horse. This isn't just an academic exercise. Unlocking the language of the Indus script is the key to understanding who these people were, what they believed, and how their society functioned. Were they the ancestors of modern-day South Indians? Or were they an early wave of the same people who would later compose the Vedas? Each possibility paints a vastly different picture of ancient history. The script remains silent, holding its secrets close. But with each new discovery, each new analysis, linguists and archaeologists get a little bit closer to making these ancient stones speak. The debate rages on, a testament to the enduring mystery and importance of this incredible lost civilization. What do you think? Based on the evidence, which theory sounds more convincing to you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. We're all detectives on this case, and every perspective helps. Now, we read tackling a puzzle that has stumped historians and linguists for a century, the Indus Valley script. But we're not just looking at old stones and clay tablets. We're bringing in the big guns, artificial intelligence. So imagine this. You have thousands of tiny, intricate seals, each covered in symbols that look like a mix of animals, people, and abstract shapes. No one speaks this language anymore. There are no long texts, no bilingual inscriptions, nothing like the Rosetta Stone that helped us crack Egyptian hieroglyphs. For decades, researchers have been staring at these symbols, trying to find a pattern, a clue, anything. It's like trying to solve a Sudoku puzzle with a million squares and no numbers to start with. Frustrating, right? This is where the game changes. In our modern era, we have a new kind of partner in this quest: computational linguistics and AI. Think of it as giving our brightest archaeologists a superpowered brain. Instead of a single person or a small team spending their entire lives manually comparing a few hundred inscriptions, we can now unleash algorithms on the entire collection of over 4,000 known texts. So, how does it actually work? It's not like in the movies where you feed the script into a computer and it spits out, "Greetings, Earthlings." It's far more subtle and, honestly, more fascinating. These AI models are pattern recognition machines on steroids. They can scan every single symbol in every single inscription and log its position, what symbols appear next to it, how often it shows up, and where it's located on the seal. They do this in a matter of hours, a task that would take a human a lifetime. One of the first big questions these programs help us tackle is the direction of the writing. Is it left to right like English, or right to left like Arabic and Hebrew? By analyzing thousands of inscriptions, computers noticed that symbols on the right side often seemed slightly compressed or cramped, as if the scribe was running out of space. This is a classic sign of right-to-left writing. While this was suspected before, AI provided massive statistical evidence to support it, making it the mainstream consensus. It was a huge step forward, all thanks to a machine noticing a subtle quirk. But it gets even deeper. The next big debate is whether the script is logographic, meaning each symbol represents a whole word, or phonetic, where symbols represent sounds, like our alphabet. Or maybe it's a mix of both, something called a logosyllabic system, like ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform. Here's where the AI gets really clever. It can analyze the frequency of symbols. For example, in an alphabet-based language, you'd expect to see a small number of signs, around 20 to 40, that repeat very often. In a purely logographic system like early Chinese, you'd have thousands of different symbols, many of which are quite rare. So, what did the AI find in the Indus script? It's somewhere in the middle. There are about 400 unique signs. That's too many for a simple alphabet, but it is far too few for a purely word-based system where you need thousands of symbols to represent every object and idea. This statistical sweet spot strongly suggests the Indus script is likely logosyllabic, a complex system combining word signs with sound signs. The computer didn't read the script, but it gave us a crucial insight into its fundamental structure. From there, researchers use AI to test more specific hypotheses. For instance, they can program the computer to look for grammatical patterns. Let's say a researcher suspects a certain fish-like symbol is a grammatical ending, maybe marking a plural or a specific case, like the S in cats. They can instruct the AI to search all inscriptions and see if this fish symbol consistently appears at the end of symbol sequences. If it does, that's a strong piece of evidence. If it appears randomly in the middle, beginning and end, the hypothesis is probably wrong. This is a process of elimination on a massive scale. The AI acts as a hypothesis testing engine. It can take a linguist's theory, run it against the entire dataset, and come back with a statistical probability of whether it's a good fit. It can identify recurring clusters of signs. For example, it might find that a specific sequence, say, jar, diamond, bird, appears dozens of times, always in that exact order. This suggests the sequence is a meaningful unit, perhaps a name, a title, a place, or a deity. We can then map these clusters. Do certain sequences only appear on seals found in Harappa, while others are exclusive to Mohenjo-Daro? Do some patterns only appear alongside a unicorn motif, while others are found with a bull? Each of these connections, identified and validated by the machine, is a breadcrumb. It has a tiny piece of the puzzle that helps us build a larger picture of the Indus Valley Civilization. Now, it's really important to stress that AI is not a magic wand. It's a tool, not the decipherer itself. The computer can tell us that a pattern exists, but it can't tell us why asterisk. It can't tell us what the unicorn symbol asterisk means asterisk. That still requires human intuition, a deep knowledge of history, and an understanding of how ancient cultures worked. The AI can show us the what, but the why and the meaning still fall to us. Think of it like this. The AI is giving us a perfectly organized library of all the Indus inscriptions, sorted and cross-referenced in every conceivable way. It highlights the most frequently used phrases, points out the grammatical oddities, and maps the relationships between symbols. It's up to the human researcher, the linguist, and the historian to walk into this beautifully organized library and actually read the story that's hidden there. These computational approaches have revitalized the field. They've moved the needle from pure speculation to data-driven science. While we haven't cracked the code just yet, every pattern identified, every hypothesis tested, narrows down the infinite possibilities. It's a slow, methodical process of chipping away at the mystery. So, the next time you see one of these enigmatic Indus seals, remember that it's not just archaeologists with magnifying glasses working on it. It's a global effort, a partnership between the human mind and the incredible power of artificial intelligence, both working together to unlock the secrets of a long-lost world. So far, we've explored the mainstream view that the Indus script is an undeciphered language. But what if it's not a language at all? It sounds radical, I know, but a respected, though minority, group of scholars has put forward this exact idea. They propose that what we're re-looking at isn't a writing system in the way we understand it, but something entirely different. This is the non-linguistic hypothesis, and today we're diving deep into this fascinating and provocative argument. So, what exactly does it mean for a script to be non-linguistic? Imagine a system of symbols that conveys information without encoding the sounds or grammar of a spoken language. Think about international road signs. A picture of a person walking tells you pedestrian crossing, no matter if you speak English, Japanese, or Swahili. It's a symbol with a shared meaning, not a word. The proponents of this theory, like scholars Steve Farmer, Richard Sprout, and Michael Witzel, suggest the Indus script might be something similar, a complex system of religious, political, or economic symbols, not a script for writing out sentences. The biggest piece of evidence for this argument is the sheer brevity of the inscriptions. The average Indus text is only about 5 symbols long. The longest one we've ever found is a mere 17 symbols, and even that's an outlier. Compare this to other ancient writing systems. Early Mesopotamian cuneiform, even in its earliest stages, was used for lengthy administrative lists, letters, and eventually, epic poems. Egyptian hieroglyphs adorned tombs with long hymns and biographies. In contrast, the Indus script is almost exclusively found on small seals, pottery, and tablets. It's like finding a library where every book is just a single 5-word sentence. It's statistically strange. Where are the long texts? The letters? The histories? Their absence is a deafening silence that the non-linguistic hypothesis tries to explain. Another point they raise is the rigidity and repetition of the symbols. Many inscriptions feature what seem to be recurring fixed sequences of symbols. While this could be part of a language's grammar, like a common phrase or a title, it could also point to something else. The non-linguistic camp argues that these might be standardized combinations of symbols representing things like a clan name, a religious deity, a specific trade good, or an official title. Think of a coat of arms. It combines specific symbols, a lion, a shield, a certain color in a fixed way to represent a noble family. It conveys information, identity, and status, but it doesn't spell out the family's name phonetically. The Indus script, they argue, might be functioning in a similar emblematic way. Let's look closer at the symbols themselves. We see a vast repertoire of signs, around 400 unique symbols. That number is a bit of a statistical puzzle. It's too many for an alphabet or a syllabary, where you'd expect a few dozen signs. But it's arguably too few for a purely logographic system like early Chinese, which had thousands of characters representing whole words. This sweet spot of around 400 signs is one of the reasons many believe it is a logosyllabic script. However, the non-linguistic side offers a different interpretation. They point out that many of these so-called unique signs might just be variations, or what linguists call allographs, of a smaller core set of symbols. Imagine the different ways you can write the letter A. It's still the same letter. If we account for these variations, the actual number of distinct base symbols might be much smaller. Furthermore, they argue that many of the rarest symbols, some of which appear only once, might not be part of the script at all. They could be doodles, decorations, or markers, specific to a single scribe or workshop. If you filter out these single occurrence signs, or hapax legomena, the core inventory of symbols shrinks even further. This could bring the number of signs into a range more consistent with a symbolic system, like heraldry or astronomical signs, rather than a full-fledged writing system capable of expressing the nuances of human language. It's a compelling statistical argument that challenges our assumptions about what even counting. Then there's the question of grammar. Proponents of the linguistic hypothesis point to statistical patterns, like certain signs appearing only at the beginning or end of inscriptions, as evidence of syntax. But the non-linguistic camp counters this. They argue that these patterns don't necessarily prove linguistic structure. A system of symbols can have its own rules. For example, in a system of religious symbols, a sign for a deity might always appear first, followed by a sign for a type of offering, and then a sign for the person making the offering. This creates a predictable sequence, a pattern, but it isn't grammar in the linguistic sense. It's a conventional order of symbols, not a reflection of a spoken language's sentence structure with subjects, verbs, and objects. The patterns are real, but their interpretation is what's fiercely debated. The context in which we find these inscriptions also offers clues. The vast majority, as we've said, are on small stamp seals. These seals were likely pressed into clay to mark ownership of goods. So what information would you need on a shipping label? The owner's name? The destination? The contents? A linguistic script could certainly do that. But so could a non-linguistic system. A symbol for a specific merchant guild, combined with a symbol for a type of grain and a number, could convey all the necessary information without ever writing a word. This functional argument is a powerful part of the non-linguistic case. If a simpler symbolic system could do the job, why assume a more complex linguistic one? This debate is more than just academic nitpicking. It fundamentally changes how we view the Indus Valley Civilization. If they didn't have writing, Were they less advanced than their contemporaries in Mesopotamia and Egypt? The proponents of the non-linguistic hypothesis would say absolutely not. They argue that we have a bias towards literacy. We see writing as the pinnacle of cultural achievement. But perhaps the Indus people simply didn't need it. Maybe they had a highly developed civilization with complex trade, urban planning, and social structures that were managed through a sophisticated system of symbols, oral traditions, and memory. A different path of development, not an inferior one. It forces us to question our very definition of what makes a civilization complex or sophisticated. Of course, the non-linguistic hypothesis has its critics, and the debate is far from settled. Many linguists and archaeologists remain convinced that the script's complexity, its systematic patterns, and its clear use for identification point strongly towards a true language. They argue that the short inscriptions are just what survived, a tiny fraction of what was likely a much richer written world, perhaps on perishable materials like cloth or palm leaves that have long since vanished. The puzzle remains, but exploring this non-linguistic challenge is crucial. It forces us to be more rigorous in our analysis and to question every assumption. It reminds us that in the face of so little evidence, we must remain open to all possibilities, no matter how unconventional they may seem. What do you think? Could a civilization that built such incredible cities function without a written language? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Ever wonder how a massive, ancient civilization without a single palace or grand temple managed to run so smoothly? The secret might be hidden in plain sight, etched onto thousands of tiny seals. Let's dive into the fascinating world of the Indus Valley scribes and uncover how their mysterious script might have been the backbone of one of history's most organized societies. So, what was the primary purpose of this enigmatic writing system? While we might dream of epic poems or royal decrees, the evidence points to something far more practical: administration and economics. Think of it like this. The Indus Valley Civilization was a sprawling network of cities and towns, bustling with trade. From Harappa to Mohenjo-Daro, goods were constantly moving: grain, pottery, precious stones, you name it. How do you keep track of all that? How do you ensure everyone plays fair? You need a system. And that's where the script comes in. Imagine an ancient official, a scribe, pressing a beautifully carved seal into a soft clay tag attached to a bale of cotton. This mark wasn't just a pretty picture. It was a powerful symbol. It could signify ownership, declaring this belongs to so-and-so. It could be a stamp of approval, certifying that a container held the correct weight of grain. Or it might have been a record of a transaction, a receipt from 4,500 years ago. These seals, found in the thousands, are our best clues. They are remarkably standardized across a vast territory, stretching hundreds of miles. This uniformity is a huge hint. It suggests a shared, understood system of communication. A merchant in Lothal, a port city on the coast, could understand a seal from a trader in the northern plains. This standardized script would have been the ancient equivalent of a universal barcode, facilitating long-distance trade and making sure everything was accounted for. This level of organization is mind-boggling. It implies a highly sophisticated bureaucracy. To manage inventories, collect taxes, and oversee the distribution of resources for entire cities, you need scribes, a class of educated individuals who could read, write, and keep records. While we haven't found any dedicated scribe schools, the sheer existence and widespread use of the script tell us that a powerful administrative structure was in place. Think about the massive granaries found in cities like Mohenjo-Daro. These weren't just simple barns. They were state-controlled warehouses. How did they manage the inflow and outflow of thousands of tons of grain? It's highly likely that scribes were there, using the script to record every single deposit and withdrawal. This wasn't just about feeding the population. It was about economic control. It was about the power to manage resources, which is the foundation of any complex state. The script might have also been used to regulate production. We find seals in craft workshops, suggesting they were used to label goods, perhaps indicating the workshop of origin or the quality of the product. This is early brand management. It ensured consistency and accountability, crucial elements in a large-scale economy. A potter's seal would be his signature, his guarantee of quality. So rather than a king on a throne, the true power in the Indus Valley might have been held by those who controlled the flow of information. The scribes, with their knowledge of the script, were the ones who made the complex machinery of this civilization turn. They were the accountants, the logisticians, the quality control inspectors, and the civil servants of their day. The presence of this script, even undeciphered, transforms our view of the Indus people. It moves them beyond a simple farming culture to a complex, urban society with a sophisticated state-like structure or a series of powerful chiefdoms working in concert. The script was the tool that allowed them to build and manage a civilization that was, in many ways, far ahead of its time. So the next time you see one of those iconic Indus seals with its animal motif and strange symbols, don't just see it as an ancient artifact. See it as a key to understanding a powerful administrative system, a window into the bustling economic life of a civilization governed not by the sword, but by the stylus. It's a testament to the power of writing to organize the world. So far, we've explored the script's potential role in trade and administration. But what if these tiny enigmatic symbols held a deeper, more sacred purpose? What if they were the key to understanding the very souls of these ancient people? Many scholars believe that the Indus script wasn't just for counting goods. It was a language of faith, a direct line to the divine. Let's journey into the spiritual heart of the Indus Valley. The script doesn't just appear on mundane items. We find it etched onto objects used in ceremonies, discovered in places that feel distinctly sacred. This suggests a powerful link between the writing system and the religious beliefs that shaped their world. It's as if the script itself was a form of ritual, a way to communicate not just with each other, but with their gods. Perhaps the most iconic and debated artifact from this entire civilization is the so-called Pashupati seal. Picture this, a small, intricately carved steatite square. At its center sits a figure in a yogic pose, wearing a horned headdress, completely surrounded by animals, a tiger, an elephant, a rhinoceros, and a buffalo. And above this powerful scene, you guessed it, characters from the Indus script. The name, Pasupati, meaning Lord of Animals, is a title later associated with the Hindu god Shiva. Could this be an early depiction of a proto-Shiva? Is the script above him his name, a title, or a prayer? This single seal opens up a universe of possibilities. The figure's meditative posture, the assembly of powerful beasts, and the presence of the script all point towards a figure of immense spiritual importance. Was he a deity, a shaman, or a priest-king? The symbols accompanying him are our best clue. If we could decipher them, we might finally understand the identity of this central figure in their belief system. Is it a name, a hymn, or an invocation meant to channel the power of the figure depicted? The debate rages on, but the connection between the image, the animals, and the script is undeniably profound, hinting at a complex interplay between nature, divinity, and written language. The Pashupati seal isn't an isolated case. Similar scenes and symbols appear on other seals and tablets, suggesting a recurring theme or a pantheon of deities. Some theories propose that specific symbols or combinations of symbols might represent different gods or goddesses. Imagine a symbol for a god of the harvest, another for a river goddess, or a protector of travelers. If this is true, the script acts as a kind of divine directory. By identifying these patterns, we could begin to reconstruct their family of gods, understanding who they worshipped and what they valued most. Each seal could be a tiny shrine, a personal connection to a specific deity. Beyond identifying deities, What if the script was a kind of instruction manual for the afterlife, or a guide for sacred rituals? Think of the Egyptian Book of the Dead, which contains spells and instructions to help the deceased navigate the underworld. Could the Indus script serve a similar function? Some inscriptions are found in burial contexts, which might suggest they were part of funerary rites, perhaps containing prayers for the soul's safe passage or spells to protect them in the next life. Unlocking these messages could reveal their entire philosophy on life, death, and what lies beyond. Now let's think about the ritualistic aspect. Imagine an Indus priest standing before a ceremonial fire, chanting from a small clay tablet. The script on that tablet might not be a record of grain, but a ritual formula, a specific sequence of words or sounds meant to bring rain, ensure a good harvest, or bless a new building. The repetitive nature of some inscriptions supports this idea. We see certain sequences of signs appearing over and over again across different sites. Are these the choruses of ancient hymns? Are they powerful mantras repeated for spiritual effect? The script could have been the scaffolding for their entire ceremonial life, ensuring that rituals were performed correctly, generation after generation. This brings us to the personal, intimate use of the script. We find these symbols on small, wearable items like amulets and talismans. These weren't public records. They were personal objects, worn close to the body. Why? The most compelling reason is for protection, luck, or healing. An amulet inscribed with a specific sign might have been believed to ward off evil spirits, cure an illness, or bring success in a venture. It's a very human practice we see across cultures and throughout history. The script, in this context, becomes a vessel for magical or spiritual power. The owner might not have even needed to be literate in the traditional sense. They just needed to know that the symbols they wore carried a sacred charge, a divine promise of safety. Think about the implications. If we could translate these amulets, we could understand the personal fears and hopes of the Indus people. What dangers did they seek protection from? What blessings did they pray for? Was it health for their children? Safety from floods? Success in trade? These small, inscribed objects offer a deeply personal window into their daily spiritual lives, moving beyond grand temples and into the homes and hearts of ordinary individuals. The script was not just for priests and kings. It was for everyone. So, when we look at an Indus seal, we might not be looking at a shipping label. We might be looking at a prayer, a spell, a deity's name, or a line from a sacred story. The script's presence on cultic objects, from ceremonial stands to votive offerings, cements its role in their spiritual world. Each symbol could be a piece of a vast, lost liturgy. Deciphering the script wouldn't just be an academic achievement. It would be a spiritual revelation. It would be like discovering the lost Bible of an entire civilization. We could finally learn the names of their gods, read their prayers, and understand the core beliefs that gave their lives meaning. The silent symbols would begin to sing the sacred songs of the Indus Valley once more. Now, we're moving beyond the idea that these fascinating seals were just for stamping clay on packages. We're going to explore a much more exciting possibility, that these tiny artifacts were powerful tools of propaganda and personal identity. So let's set the scene. Imagine you're in a bustling marketplace in Mohenjo-Daro, around 4,500 years ago. The air is filled with the sounds of chatter, the smells of spices and pottery. People are trading goods from far and wide. In a society where most people likely couldn't read or write, how do you establish trust? How do you prove who you are, or that the goods you're selling are genuinely yours? The answer, we believe, lies in these little stone seals. Think of them not just as stamps, but as the ancient world's equivalent of a corporate logo, a business card, and a personal signature, all rolled into one. Each seal, with its unique combination of an animal motif and those enigmatic symbols, was a statement. It wasn't just a random picture of a bull or a unicorn. It was a brand, Let's take a merchant, for example. We'll call him Arvin. Arvin travels from his home city to trade textiles. His seal, carved with a powerful-looking bull and his unique sequence of symbols, is pressed into the clay tag on every bundle of cloth he sells. When his shipment arrives in another city, anyone who sees that bull knows it's from Arvin. They know the quality to expect. It's a mark of authenticity and reputation. In a world without written contracts, this visual guarantee was everything. His seal was his trademark, instantly recognizable and a symbol of his professional standing. But it goes even deeper than just business. These seals were likely profound symbols of identity. The specific animal on your seal might not have been just a random choice. It could have represented your family, your clan, or your profession. Perhaps all the potters in a certain district used seals with a specific motif, or maybe a powerful family was known by the image of the zebu bull. It was a way of saying, I belong to this group. I share their values, their history, and their status. It created a sense of community and social structure, all communicated visually. Think about it like modern-day family crests or a university's insignia. When you see it, you immediately understand a whole backstory of lineage, prestige, and affiliation. For the Indus people, seeing a seal with a particularly intricate design or a rare animal might have instantly communicated that the owner was a person of high status, a priest, a ruler, or a wealthy landowner. It was a miniature billboard advertising your place in the world. The more complex and finely crafted the seal, the more power and influence you likely wielded. So when we look at these seals, we're not just looking at a stamp, we're looking at a carefully constructed message. The animal projects an image strength, authority, perhaps even a connection to a specific deity. The script, even if undeciphered, adds another layer of specificity and authority. It says, this is not just any bull, this is my asterisk bull. This is not just any shipment, this is my shipment. The combination was a unique identifier, a personal brand in a pre-literate world. This is why the visual impact was so crucial. The choice of the animal, the style of the carving, the elegance of the script, all of these elements were designed to convey a message of power, ownership, and identity. For the person holding the seal, it was a tangible connection to their social standing. For the person viewing its impression, it was a clear and immediate signal of who they were dealing with. It's a brilliant system for managing a complex urban society. Let's consider the propaganda angle more directly. Imagine a ruling elite or a priestly class. By consistently using seals with a specific, powerful image like the famous Proto-Shiva or Pashupata seal, they could project their authority and religious ideology across the entire civilization. Every time that image appeared on a tablet or a trade good, it was a reinforcement of their power and their worldview. It was a way of saying, this is who is in charge. This is the divine order we represent. The repetition of these motifs across hundreds, even thousands of kilometers, from Harappa to Lawful, suggests a unified cultural and possibly political system. These seals were the glue. They carried these messages of identity and authority far and wide, creating a shared visual language that everyone, literate or not, could understand. It was a subtle but incredibly effective form of mass communication. So, when you see an Indus seal, don't just see it as an administrative tool. See it for what it truly was, a miniature masterpiece of personal branding and social propaganda. It is a window into how these ancient people saw themselves and how they presented themselves to the world. They were declaring their clan, their profession, their status, and their power, all in a piece of stone no bigger than a postage stamp. It's a testament to their ingenuity and the complexity of their society. These seals weren't just stamping clay. They were stamping identity onto the very fabric of their civilization. They tell a story not of words, but of images, status, and power, proving that even 5,000 years ago, a strong brand was a person's most valuable asset. While we still can't read their words, that doesn't mean their voices are entirely lost to time. In fact, these silent inscriptions, combined with fascinating archaeological finds, offer tantalizing glimpses into their daily lives. It's like being a detective, piecing together a puzzle with half the pieces missing, but the picture that emerges is still incredibly vivid. So, how can a script we can't read tell us anything at all? It's all about context. Think about it. Where we find these inscriptions, what they're written on, and how they're distributed across a vast area tells a story all its own. These unread symbols are not just abstract squiggles. They are silent witnesses to the hustle and bustle of a civilization that thrived over 4,000 years ago. Today, we're going to put on our archaeologist hats and follow these clues to reconstruct the world of the Indus people, one inscribed artifact at a time. Let's start with the most common place we find the Indus script, on small, square seals, usually carved from a soft stone called steatite. Picture a bustling marketplace in Mohenjo-Daro or Harappa. A merchant has just finished packing a large clay pot with valuable goods, maybe spices from the hills, or finely crafted beads. Before sending it off, he takes a lump of wet clay and presses it over the pot's lid. Then he pulls out his personal seal, a small stone intricately carved with an animal motif, like a powerful unicorn bull, and a short line of script above it. He presses the seal into the clay, leaving a perfect impression. This wasn't just for decoration. This seal impression was a mark of ownership, a guarantee of quality, and a security measure. Once the clay dried, the pot couldn't be opened without breaking the seal. When it arrived at its destination, perhaps hundreds of miles away, the buyer would know exactly who sent it, and that the contents hadn't been tampered with. The script on that seal likely named the merchant, his family, his clan, or maybe even his official title. Every time we find one of these clay sealings, we're looking at the tangible evidence of a transaction, a moment of trust and trade frozen in time. These seals are the ancient equivalent of a modern company logo, a shipping label, and a tamper-proof seal, all rolled into one elegant package. The sheer number and widespread distribution of these seals paint a picture of a remarkably organized and interconnected society. We found them not just in the major Indus cities, but in smaller towns and villages, and even as far away as Mesopotamia in modern-day Iraq. This tells us that Indus merchants were part of a vast international trade network. Imagine a trader from Harappa, his goods marked with his unique seal, embarking on a long and perilous journey by boat down the Indus River, across the Arabian Sea, and up the Persian Gulf to the great cities of Ur and Akkad. He was a global entrepreneur of the Bronze Age, and his seal was his passport and his business card. The script he carried connected him back to a shared system of identity and administration that spanned a territory larger than ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia. But it wasn't just about big business and international trade. The script appears in much more personal and intimate contexts, too. Archaeologists have unearthed tiny tablets and amulets made of terracotta, copper, and even ivory, all bearing these mysterious symbols. Some of these are so small they could have been worn as pendants on a necklace or tied to the wrist. What were they for? While we can't be certain, one popular theory is that they were protective talismans or amulets used in religious or spiritual practices. Imagine a religious practitioner, a priest or a shaman, carefully inscribing a specific sequence of symbols onto a small copper tablet. Perhaps it was a prayer for a good harvest, a charm to ward off illness, or an invocation to a deity. The person receiving it would wear it close to their body, believing in the power contained within those symbols. The script, in this context, wasn't just for communication. It was imbued with spiritual power. Each inscribed amulet is a whisper of their belief system, a glimpse into what they feared, what they hoped for, and the unseen forces they believed shaped their world. The fact that these objects are found in homes and personal burials suggests that these beliefs were deeply integrated into the fabric of their daily lives. from the highest official to the common artisan. Let's move from the personal to the public sphere. Another fascinating clue comes from what we *T* find. Unlike in ancient Egypt or Mesopotamia, we haven't found any massive stone monuments covered in royal pronouncements. There are no grand inscriptions boasting of a king's sea's conquests or long lists of laws carved for all to see. Instead, we find the script on functional, everyday objects. This has led some experts to believe that the Indus society might have been governed differently. Perhaps it wasn't a kingdom ruled by an all-powerful monarch, but a more complex system run by a council of elites, perhaps powerful merchants, clan leaders, or high priests. The script could have been a tool for this administrative class. We find inscribed pottery, which might have been used to label the contents of large storage jars in public granaries, keeping track of taxes paid in grain. We find inscribed tools, perhaps indicating ownership by a particular workshop or guild. One of the most famous and intriguing artifacts is a large sign, often called the Dalavira signboard. It was found lying on the floor of a gateway at the city of Dalavira. It consists of 10 large Indus symbols, each about 37 centimeters high, originally set into a wooden board. This wasn't a small personal item. This was a public display. Was it the name of the city? A "Welcome to Dalavira" sign? The name of a temple or a ruler? Whatever it said, its prominent location suggests it was meant to be seen by everyone entering that part of the city. It's a powerful reminder that the script, while often used on small items, also had a public-facing role, organizing space and conveying information to the masses, even if the majority of people were not literate themselves. The very ubiquity of the script is perhaps the most telling detail of all. It's everywhere. It's on seals for trade, amulets for protection, pottery for storage, and bangles for adornment. This wasn't a secret code known only to a handful of scribes. It was a symbolic system that permeated every level of their society. A potter might not have been able to read in the way we understand it, but he would have recognized the seal of the merchant he was selling his wares to. A child might have worn an amulet with symbols she couldn't decipher, but she understood it was meant to keep her safe. The Indus script was a shared visual language that bound their society together. It signified identity, ownership, authority, and belief. It was the glue that held together their complex urban life and their sprawling trade networks. Even though we can't translate the signs, we can read the context. We can see the ghost of an administrator marking a clay tablet, a priest chanting over an inscribed amulet, a merchant stamping his seal on a bale of cotton. Each unread inscription is a time capsule, a single frame from the lost film of their daily lives. It's the signature on a contract we can't read, a prayer to a god we don't know, a label on a product we can't identify. The script's silence is frustrating, yes, but it also forces us to look closer at the world these people built. It makes us appreciate the elegance of their cities, the sophistication of their trade, and the richness of their material culture. The voices of the Indus people may be lost, but their story is written all around us, in the silent symbols they left behind, waiting for the day we can finally hear what they have to say. Have you ever dreamed of uncovering a lost secret, a message from a civilization thousands of years old? For archaeologists and linguists studying the ancient Indus Valley, that dream is a daily reality. The key to unlocking their enigmatic script doesn't just lie in dusty libraries or complex computer algorithms. It's buried under layers of earth, waiting to be discovered. The hope for decipherment, that single moment of breakthrough, is fueled by the tireless work happening right now at excavation sites. Imagine the scene. The sun beats down on the vast, ancient landscape of what was once a bustling metropolis. Archaeologists are on their hands and knees, meticulously, almost reverently, sifting through the soil. Every scoop of dirt, every fragment of pottery, could hold the answer. They aren't just looking for artifacts. They're searching for words, for symbols, for a connection to a people who vanished from history 4 millennia ago. Their ultimate prize? The holy grail of undeciphered scripts, a bilingual text. A bilingual text is an inscription that features the same message written in 2 different languages, one known and one unknown. Think of the Rosetta Stone. It had the same decree written in ancient Greek, Demotic, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. Because scholars could read ancient Greek, they were able to crack the code of the hieroglyphs, unlocking the secrets of ancient Egypt. A similar find in the Indus Valley, perhaps a trade tablet with both Indus script and, say, ancient Mesopotamian cuneiform, would be the single most important archaeological discovery of the 21st century. It would be an instant eureka moment, transforming our understanding of this ancient world overnight. But even without a Rosetta Stone, every new discovery is a crucial piece of the puzzle. Archaeologists aren't just hoping for one miracle find. They're piecing together a mosaic of clues. They're searching for longer inscriptions than the short sequences we typically find on seals. The average Indus inscription is only about 5 symbols long. Finding a text with 20, 30, or even 100 characters would provide an unprecedented amount of data for linguists. It would allow them to analyze patterns, syntax, and symbol frequency on a whole new scale, potentially revealing the underlying grammatical structure of the language. The context in which these inscriptions are found is just as important as the inscriptions themselves. Was a particular seal found in a workshop, a home, or a public building? Was it associated with specific goods like pottery or beads? This contextual information helps us build a picture of how the script was used. For example, if certain symbols consistently appear on artifacts found in granaries, we might hypothesize they relate to grain, taxes, or distribution. Every find adds a new layer of meaning, helping us move from abstract symbols to concrete ideas. And new discoveries are happening. Take the remarkable finding at Dhalavira, a major Indus city in modern-day Gujarat, India. There, archaeologists unearthed what has been dubbed the Dhalavira signboard. It's a large wooden board, now decayed, that once held 10 massive Indus symbols, each about 37 centimeters high and crafted from crystalline gypsum. This wasn't a tiny seal. This was a public proclamation, something meant to be seen from afar, perhaps mounted above a gateway. The significance of the Dhalavira signboard is immense. Firstly, its sheer size suggests a level of social organization and public communication far beyond personal identification. This was a message for the masses. Secondly, the use of 10 distinct symbols in a single sequence is one of the longest Indus inscriptions ever found. It provides a precious string of data for researchers. While we still can't read it, its existence proves that longer, more complex texts were created. It tells us there's more out there to find. Was it the name of the city? A welcome message? A king's decree? We don't know, but the signboard keeps that tantalizing possibility alive. Even the smallest fragments can be game changers. A single new seal, a broken piece of pottery with a few symbols, can be vital. Imagine you're building a massive 10,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but you only have a few hundred pieces. Every new piece you find, no matter how small, is precious. It might connect 2 sections you thought were unrelated, or it might reveal a new color or pattern you hadn't seen before. That's exactly what happens with the Indus script. A new fragment might contain a symbol never seen before, expanding our known character set. Or it might show a familiar symbol in a new combination, challenging existing hypotheses about the script's structure. These small finds are fed into massive databases, where powerful computational tools analyze patterns across thousands of inscriptions. An algorithm might detect that a newly discovered symbol pair also appears on a dozen other seals from a completely different city, revealing a previously unknown connection or a common phrase. This constant influx of new data keeps the field dynamic and exciting. It prevents stagnation and forces researchers to constantly refine their theories. A hypothesis that seemed plausible yesterday might be debunked by a potsherd unearthed tomorrow. This is the scientific method in action, a slow and steady process of discovery, analysis, and re-evaluation. The search continues across Pakistan and India, at famous sites like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, and at lesser-known mounds that still hold countless secrets. Modern technology, like ground-penetrating radar and satellite imagery, helps archaeologists identify promising areas for excavation without disturbing the entire landscape. Each new dig season brings with it a sense of anticipation and hope. The team that finally uncovers the key might be in the field right now, carefully brushing away the dust of centuries. So, the quest to decipher the Indus script is a living, breathing endeavor. It is a testament to our innate human desire to connect with our past and understand our shared story. Every archaeologist with a trowel, every linguist with a database, is part of this grand adventure. The voices of the Indus people have been silent for 4,000 years. But with each new discovery, we get one step closer to hearing them again. The next clue is out there, just waiting to be found. Have you ever wondered what it would take to finally read the lost languages of history? What's the secret key that will unlock ancient civilizations like the Indus Valley? Well, the answer might not be a single key, but a whole team of specialists holding different parts of the puzzle. The future of decipherment isn't about one lone genius poring over dusty texts. It's about a massive, exciting collaboration between some of the brightest minds from completely different fields. Imagine a room, or maybe a massive global video call. In one corner, you have the linguists, the masters of language structure, grammar, and phonetics. They're looking for patterns, for how sounds might have evolved, for connections to known language families. They understand the very soul of how we communicate. They can look at a string of symbols and see the ghost of a sentence structure, the echo of a verb conjugation. They're the ones who can ask, does this behave like a language? And truly understand the implications of the answer. Then you have the archaeologists, standing in the digital equivalent of an excavation pit. They bring the all-important context. A script isn't just abstract symbols. It's found on specific objects, in specific layers of dirt, associated with specific artifacts. Was this inscription found on a royal seal or a common piece of pottery? Was it in a temple or a marketplace? This information is pure gold. An archaeologist can tell you, this script only appears on trade goods heading east, which gives the linguist a huge clue about what the words might be discussing. They ground the abstract symbols in the real, tangible world of the people who wrote them. Now, let's bring in the heavy hitters from the tech world, the computer scientists and data analysts. They are the new secret weapon in this ancient quest. They come armed with artificial intelligence, machine learning, and powerful algorithms. They can scan thousands of inscriptions in seconds, identifying statistical patterns that the human eye might miss over a lifetime of study. They can run complex simulations, testing out thousands of hypothetical language models to see which one fits the data best. Think of it like a computational brute force attack, but guided by linguistic principles. They can create vast databases, linking every known symbol to its location, its context, and its relationship with other symbols, creating a digital web of knowledge that no single human could ever hold in their head. And of course, we can't forget the epigraphists. These are the specialists who live and breathe ancient writing systems. They are the masters of the physical medium itself. They understand how the symbols were carved into stone, impressed into clay, or painted onto papyrus. They can distinguish between a deliberate stylistic flourish and a simple scribe's mistake. They know the evolution of individual characters over centuries, watching them get simpler or more complex. They are the bridge between the physical artifact and the abstract language, ensuring that our interpretation is true to the actual inscription as it was created thousands of years ago. So, what does this collaboration look like in practice? It's a dynamic, constant feedback loop. The archaeologist unearths a new tablet and carefully documents its location. The epigraphist meticulously records the inscription, noting the tool marks and the style of the script. This data is fed into a computer model built by the tech team. The AI crunches the numbers and highlights a recurring cluster of symbols that always appears alongside images of grain. The linguist sees this and hypothesizes, could this be the word for barley or perhaps a unit of measure, like bushel? This hypothesis is then sent back to the archaeologist, who checks their records. Do other tablets with this symbol cluster also come from granaries or administrative buildings related to food storage? If yes, the theory gets stronger. If no, it's back to the drawing board. It's this holistic approach, this constant conversation between disciplines, that makes all the difference. We're moving beyond isolated efforts and creating a powerful, interconnected network of expertise. Every piece of evidence, from the chemical composition of the clay tablet to the statistical frequency of a single symbol, is brought together. This synergy is what offers the best hope we've ever had for cracking codes like the Indus Valley script or linear A. It's not just about having more data or faster computers. It's about combining the raw power of technology with the deep, nuanced understanding of humanistic insight. The computer can find correlations, but it takes a human expert to interpret what those correlations mean in the context of a culture, a history, and a people. It's this beautiful marriage of man and machine, of ancient history and future technology, that will finally allow these long silent civilizations to speak to us once more. The journey to decipherment is one of the greatest detective stories in human history, and we're living in its most exciting chapter. By working together, we're not just solving a puzzle. We are resurrecting entire worlds. So far, we've looked at attempts to crack this code using bilingual texts, but what happens when you don't have a Rosetta Stone? Do you just give up? Absolutely not. This is where one of the most powerful tools in a linguist's arsenal comes into play: comparative linguistics. Imagine you're a detective, but instead of fingerprints, you're hunting for echoes of words that are thousands of years old. That's essentially what we're talking about today. Even without a direct translation, we can compare the unknown script to other known ancient languages, searching for what we call cognates. Cognates are words in different languages that share a common ancestor. Think of the English word father, the German Vater, and the Latin pater. They look and sound similar because they all evolved from the same ancient root. The goal here is to find similar connections, a linguistic family reunion across the millennia. Now, the prime suspect for a potential relative of the Indus script is the Dravidian family of languages. This is a large group of languages spoken mainly in southern India and parts of central and eastern India. Why Dravidian? Well, there are several theories. Geographically, it's plausible that Dravidian speakers were once more widespread across the subcontinent, potentially including the regions where the Indus Valley Civilization thrived. The idea is that if we can find cognates or even structural similarities between the Indus script and an early form of Dravidian, we might just find a way in. So, how do linguists actually do this? It's a painstaking process. They're not just looking for words that look vaguely similar. They're analyzing the fundamental building blocks of language, the sounds or phonemes. They create charts comparing the sound systems of Proto-Dravidian, the reconstructed ancestor of modern Dravidian languages, with the symbols in the Indus script. For example, they might hypothesize that a specific fish-like symbol in the script represents a word that sounds like the Proto-Dravidian word for fish, which is mian. But here's where it gets really clever. The word mean-jin in Dravidian languages also has a second meaning, star. This is what we call a homophone, two words that sound the same but have different meanings. Suddenly, a picture of a fish might not just mean fish. It could be a rebus, a pictorial pun, representing a star or a deity. This men-star hypothesis is one of the most famous and debated examples of this comparative approach. If it's correct, it unlocks a whole new layer of meaning, transforming simple pictures into complex ideas about cosmology and religion. It's not just about vocabulary, either. Linguists also scrutinize grammar. They look at the order of the symbols. Is it subject-verb-object, like English? Or subject-object-verb, like Dravidian languages and many others in India? They examine how words are modified. Are there prefixes added to the beginning of a root symbol, or suffixes added to the end? Dravidian languages are known for being agglutinative, meaning they love to stack suffixes onto root words to change their meaning. Researchers painstakingly check if the patterns in the Indus script, the repetition of certain signs at the end of sequences, match this grammatical structure. If they find a consistent match, it's another piece of evidence, another faint echo of a shared linguistic past. Of course, this method is riddled with challenges. We're dealing with immense spans of time. Languages change, and the sounds of Proto-Dravidian are themselves a reconstruction, an educated guess. It's like trying to match a blurry, ancient photograph to a sketch of a long-lost ancestor. The connections can be subtle and open to interpretation. Critics argue that you can find chance resemblances between any two languages if you look hard enough. It's easy to see patterns where none exist, a phenomenon called apophenia. This is the tightrope walk of comparative linguistics, balancing rigorous, systematic comparison against the temptation of wishful thinking. To guard against this, researchers rely on statistics and frequency analysis. It's one thing to find a single possible match, like the mean star example. It's another thing entirely to find dozens of consistent, systematic correspondences that follow predictable rules of sound change. They ask, do these proposed connections appear consistently across hundreds of texts? Do they follow logical patterns? For a parallel to be considered compelling, it can't be a one-off lucky guess. It has to be part of a larger, coherent system. Despite the difficulties, the potential reward is enormous. If a link to the Dravidian family, or any language family, could be firmly established, it would be the ultimate foot in the door. It wouldn't give us a word-for-word translation overnight, but it would provide a framework, a key to the semantic world of the Indus people. We could start to decipher the potential meanings of the signs, moving from abstract symbols to concrete concepts. It would be like finding a dictionary for a handful of words, allowing us to begin translating the first few sentences, and, from there, bootstrap our way into understanding the entire language. This search for cognates and structural parallels is a testament to the patient, methodical work of historical linguists. It's a high-stakes, high-difficulty puzzle, but it represents one of our most promising avenues for finally hearing the voices of the Indus Valley Civilization. The answers might be hidden in plain sight, encoded in the languages still spoken today, waiting for us to connect the dots. We've journeyed together through the mysteries of the Indus Valley Civilization, exploring its silent cities, its enigmatic seals, and the tantalizing script that has remained a locked box for nearly a century. We've looked at the data, the dead ends, the brilliant theories, and the fierce debates. But now, in our final chapter, let's do something different. Let's imagine we found the key. Let's picture the moment the researcher, after years of tireless work, finally breaks the code. What happens next? What world awaits us on the other side of decipherment? The first thing to understand is that cracking the Indus script wouldn't just be an academic victory. It would be like discovering a lost library from the dawn of civilization. Right now, our understanding of the Indus people is based on what they left behind: their bricks, their pottery, their city layouts. It's like trying to understand our own society by only looking at our roads and our empty houses. We see the what, but we can't hear the why. Decipherment would switch on the lights and let us hear their voices for the first time. Imagine holding a translation of an Indus tablet that turns out to be a poem. Suddenly, these aren't just anonymous builders and traders anymore. They are people who felt love, loss, and wonder. We might discover their epic myths, stories of gods and heroes, that rival those of Mesopotamia or Egypt. What did they believe about the creation of the world? Did they have a great flood story? Who were their most revered deities? And what were their names? The famous priest-king statue might finally have a name and a story. His role in society explained in his own people's words. The horned figure on the Pashupati seal, is he a god, a shaman, a proto-Shiva? The script holds the answer. And it goes beyond myths and religion. Think about history. Right now, the history of the Indian subcontinent has a huge silent gap. We have the incredible urbanism of the Indus Valley, and then a long period of apparent decline before the rise of the Vedic culture. But what if the Indus script reveals a continuous history? What if we found king lists, chronicles of their interactions with their neighbors in Mesopotamia and Central Asia? We know they traded goods, but what did they think of each other? Did they sign treaties? Did they fight wars? The entire political landscape of the Bronze Age would have to be redrawn. We could finally learn the true names of their magnificent cities. Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa are modern names. What did the people who lived there actually call home? Then there's the law. The incredible uniformity and organization of Indus cities suggest a powerful, centralized system of governance. But was it a kingdom? A republic of city-states? A theocracy run by priests? A successful decipherment could uncover their legal codes, their social contracts. We might find marriage contracts, land ownership documents, and trade agreements. We could learn about their justice system. How did they resolve disputes? What were their ideas of fairness and community? This wouldn't just be history. It would be a blueprint of one of humanity's earliest experiments in large-scale urban living. Understanding their successes and failures could even offer insights for our own modern challenges of city life. But perhaps the most profound change would be to the story of India itself. The origins of many foundational aspects of Indian civilization are hotly debated. Decipherment could provide concrete answers. We could see, in black and white, the linguistic and cultural connections or disconnections between the Indus Valley people and the later Vedic culture. We could trace the evolution of religious ideas, philosophical concepts, and social structures right back to their Bronze Age roots. It would be like finding the first chapter of a book you've been reading your whole life, a chapter you never knew existed. The entire narrative of South Asian history would be enriched and deepened, giving a voice to a foundational culture that has been silent for too long. Let's get even more personal. Among the thousands of short inscriptions, many are likely to be mundane simple labels, tax records, or ownership marks. But some could be more. Imagine finding a letter from a trader in Lothal to his family back in Mohenjo-Daro, describing his long journey. Or a scribe's practice tablet with a teacher's corrections in the margins. Or even a simple inscription on a piece of pottery that reads, "A gift from my mother." These small, personal glimpses are what make history come alive. They bridge the gap of 4,000 years and remind us that these were real people with hopes, fears, and relationships, just like us. They would cease to be abstract figures and become part of our shared human family. The decipherment would also revolutionize linguistics and the study of writing itself. Was the script an alphabet, a syllabary, or something else entirely? Which language family does it belong to, Dravidian, Indo-Aryan, or a long-lost isolate? Answering this wouldn't just solve a local puzzle. It would add a major piece to our understanding of how the human mind creates and develops written language. It's one of the last great, undeciphered major scripts from the ancient world. Breaking it would be a monumental achievement, a testament to human ingenuity and our unyielding desire to connect with our past. So as we stand here at the end of our series, the Indus script remains a beautiful, frustrating enigma. It's a challenge that has humbled generations of brilliant minds. But it is not a hopeless cause. With new technologies, artificial intelligence, and the continued dedication of researchers around the world, the day may come when these ancient symbols finally yield their secrets. When that day arrives, it will be a moment of global celebration. A lost world will be found, not through digging in the earth, but through the decipherment of a code. We will finally hear the stories the people of the Indus Valley wanted to tell. Their wisdom, their art, and their identity will be restored to them. And in doing so, our own understanding of ourselves and the grand sprawling story of human civilization will be forever changed and immeasurably enriched. This is the conclusion of our series, The Indus Valley's Lost Script Explained. We've walked together through the silent ruins and pondered over the mysterious symbols left behind by one of the world's earliest urban civilizations. Now, as we stand at the end of this exploration, we're left not with all the answers, but with something perhaps even more valuable, a profound sense of awe and a deep, burning curiosity. For nearly 5,000 years, the script of the Indus Valley Civilization has remained a locked door. It has stubbornly guarded its secrets, resisting every brilliant mind, every technological advance, and every passionate attempt to break its code. It's a historical puzzle on an epic scale. But throughout this series, we haven't just stared at a locked door. We've examined the intricate carvings on it. We've come to appreciate the sheer sophistication of this writing system. It's not just random squiggles. It's a structured, repeatable, and logical system of communication. We've explored the various theories, from the idea that it represents a Proto-Dravidian language tying it to modern languages spoken in southern India, to the hypothesis that it might be an ancestor of Sanskrit, linking it to the Indo-Aryan family. We've also considered more radical ideas, like the possibility that it isn't a true language at all, but a system of symbols for trade, family crests, or religious rituals. Each theory is a testament to human ingenuity, a different key being forged in the hopes of finding the one that fits the lock. We've seen how researchers use everything from powerful computer algorithms to painstakingly detailed analyses of pottery fragments to find patterns. Imagine for a moment what's behind that door. These aren't just abstract symbols. They are the last whispers of a lost world. Cracking this code would be like finding a library from a forgotten civilization. We might finally read their stories, understand their myths, and listen to their poetry. We could learn the names of their kings and queens, their gods and goddesses. We could uncover their laws, their astronomical observations, and their medical knowledge. Think about it. A society that built some of the world's first planned cities, with advanced sanitation and complex trade networks, certainly had a lot to say. Their script holds the potential to rewrite the first chapter of South Asian history, and, by extension, human history itself. These enigmatic inscriptions are so much more than archaeological artifacts. They are unread letters from our ancestors. They represent the daily lives of merchants tracking their goods, priests recording sacred hymns, or even just a child practicing their letters on a clay tablet. They promise to reveal the complex beliefs, the social structures, and the profound worldview of a truly remarkable Bronze Age society. We've seen their incredible urban planning and their beautiful art, but their script is the key to understanding their minds, their hearts, and their souls. The Indus script stands as a powerful testament to the human drive to create, to communicate, and to leave a mark on the world. It's a reminder that language, in all its forms, is one of our most fundamental inventions. Even when it's a language we can no longer hear, its presence speaks volumes. The silence of the Indus script is deafening, filled with the echoes of a civilization waiting to be understood. So, where do we go from here? The quest is far from over. Around the world, in universities and labs, the work continues. New discoveries are being made, new technologies are being applied, and new generations of scholars are taking up the challenge, fueled by the same passion we've explored in this series. Every new seal discovered, every new pattern identified by a computer, brings us one small step closer. The hope remains as strong as ever that one day, perhaps in our lifetime, the Indus Valley will finally speak again. The day we can read these symbols will be a monumental day for humanity, a day when a lost branch of our family tree is finally reconnected. And that brings us to the end of our series. It has been an incredible privilege to guide you through this labyrinth of history and mystery. We embarked on this journey to explain the lost script, and while the final explanation still eludes the world, I hope we've succeeded in explaining its importance, its complexity, and the incredible human trauma surrounding the quest to decipher it. The story of the Indus script is not just a story about the past. It's a story about the future, about the discoveries that still await us. Thank you so much for joining us on this fascinating exploration. Your curiosity and engagement have made this series truly special. If you've been as captivated by the secrets of the Indus script as we have, please show your support by liking this video and sharing it with anyone who loves a good historical mystery. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next deep dive into the greatest puzzles of the ancient world. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, stay curious.